Welcome to The Breakdown, brought to you by PaintballAccess.com in conjunction with PaintballNation, and brought to you also by Key Action Sports, Planet Eclipse, GI, Dye, and Roz. I'm Matty Marshall alongside Todd Martinez, and man, the biggest event of the year is coming up here. It's just around the corner, October 10th through the 12th, the PSP World Cup, most important event of the season, of the year, and it's, you know, we always talk about this every year, Todd, but it's true. It's very true. Everyone always wants to win the World Cup. Everyone's working as hard as they possibly can right now. There are so many storylines in the Champs and the Challengers division coming up. I don't even know where to begin. Thank you guys for joining us. And we have some awesome guests for you here today. We have Yosh Rao from San Diego Dynasty, as well as Scotty Kemp from the defending world champion San Antonio X Factor. They won the event last year in dramatic fashion, come from behind victory in the finals. We're going to get their thoughts on their year so far from both those teams, as well as the upcoming event. Thank you guys again for tuning in and supporting us here at Paintball Access. Man, every dollar that you spend on the webcast goes directly to the production budget. So we thank you guys for supporting the sport by supporting Paintball Access. So Todd, man, so many crazy things going down, but let's get into these brackets. The first bracket, Art Chaos, Moscow Red Legion, Ironman, Houston Heat, and San Antonio X Factor. What do you think about that one?
I mean, it's gonna be a really tough bracket. I mean, just start off, Art Chaos, they won the last event. So, you know, the four Russian guys, and we're talking about Biernikov, Sergey, Mishka, and Fedorov. Those guys are playing at the top of their game like they have been for years, and it's going to be tough to beat those guys coming off of a win and the expectations that they've had all season. Moscow Red Legion, they've been getting better all season, and, you know, we played them a couple tough games already this year. Those guys are going to be really good. The Ironmen, those guys are a team that's on the cusp. You know, they've gotten so close so many times. Who knows, this might be the event where they finally take that next step and play really well on Sunday and you know, bring home a cup. Houston Heat, again, we've seen them play in the finals this year. You know, you kind of don't know what to expect from them, but they're a top team.
And they played in relegation at the last event. It's been a topsy-turvy year, definitely for Houston Heat, and then also San Antonio X Factor.
Yep, last year's champions. You know.
And coming in from the Challengers division as well, too. So that is a completely crazy. You know, look, every single event is pretty insane as far as the brackets. But I think that these brackets are pretty even. We don't really have the murderers row. Every team is obviously, and honestly, there's, you know, any one of these teams really has a chance to win this event. In the next bracket, you have Edmonton Impact, who has had a phenomenal year so far. Also, Tampa Bay Damage, who's looked very consistent throughout the year, making it to Sunday, but just hasn't had enough to get past those games and win a tournament. And then also Omaha Vicious, your team. I want to talk to you about that in a second before we get to our guests here. And also Upton 187 Crew and Baltimore Revo. I think that, you know, Upton has also had a pretty interesting year. They've been icing people down, man, in those relegations games. Upton 187 Crew has won 3 relegation games. They've beat some really good teams, but just not very consistent. They don't have a ton of depth, but those starters continue to evolve. And I really think that because they've beat really good teams before, that if they could just get a string of victories together, just start getting that starting 5 to coalesce and play their best paintball all at the same time, even though they don't have a super deep team, because those guys are good and they've proven they can beat big teams in big games, you know, whether or not they're going to go down to go down in the Challenger division. They haven't done that yet this year. And then also the heroes of the last event at the West Coast Open, Baltimore Revo, is, you know, they defeated Los Angeles Infamous to make it into the Champions division.
Yeah, I mean, you got the upstart Baltimore Revo. I mean, they got nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
This is their first event in the Pro Division. They're coming in and they're going to play, you know, 4 really solid teams this year. And, you know, they've shown that they want to be here. They put in the time, the effort. You know, we know that these guys really drill hard. They got a deep roster of players because they're picking from several lower divisional players to put the best 10 out there. And then up to 187, like you were saying before, I mean, they know how to beat good teams. I think it's just a matter of getting off to a good start for them. You know, we always see them pick it up towards the end of the event. They know how to win these games. They just need to learn how to do it from the beginning, starting Friday morning, other than starting to pick it up on Sunday morning. But, I mean, Edmonton Impact, Tampa Bay Damage has ran into Impact several times this year on those Sunday morning games. So that's the only thing that's really been stopping them, because Impact's been playing so well. And then Vicious, you know, I feel like we've had a pretty solid year. You know, took second in the first event and, you know, been playing pretty good paintball. And I feel like we're just like the Ironmen, you know, sitting right there, 4th and 5th, and you know, I feel like if the team decides to get it all together, then you know we can take that big step.
Yeah, I definitely want to pick your brain about Omaha Vicious before we get into to bringing Yosh Rao on. He's going to be our first guest here, talk about San Diego Dynasty, which has had a pretty topsy-turvy year as well too. But definitely, man, I want to just touch on Revo real quick, man. Revo, they had an amazing event at the last event. They won 5 games, they lost 1, but they beat CEP, X Factor, Red Storm, and Boom, and Infamous all in the prelims, and then in the in the semifinals, and then they end up losing to San Antonio X Factor 4-6 in that final game. But still, you know, that whole program did great. They had a couple teams win in divisional ranks as well too. So you want to talk about a team on the rise, and they've been doing this for a while now, and they've been putting some years in, slowly but surely, methodically making their way up the ranks, but kind of proving to the world that it can be done. And it's really cool to see a team like that, you know, start to live their dream, and they have, you know, a shot at the World Cup. It's going to be, it's a big bite for them, though. You know, obviously they definitely proved themselves. They beat X Factor, the defending world champs, at the last event. They also beat Infamous. But, you know, again, just like VCK, just like some of these other teams moving up, you know, they're going to have to prove themselves in those games. So we'll see if that happens. But, you know, also we're going to have Yosh, both Yosh, Scotty, and also Todd going over drills and plays that your team can run in the practices leading up to World Cup. You know, it's always so fundamentally important. So Todd, before we get into your drill and your play, I do want to talk about your fantasy team, because, you know, make sure you go to paintballaccess.com and you know, which you're on right now, but make sure you go sign up your fantasy team. You can do either a draft, so get a bunch of your boys together and you can play in your own league, or sign up for the quick pick and have a chance to win a big prize. So Todd, kind of give me a little bit of your insight into, I mean, how'd you go with the fantasy this time? Obviously snake heavy field.
Okay.
What are you thinking?
So, well, you know, this time I kind of looked at it, and it's crazy how the prices broke down for all these different players. You know, the past couple events I've really kind of gone with, you know, pick a couple good heavy hitters and then try and keep my, you know, like make the rest of my money work for me. But, you know, the way that, you know, the players were so, like the high dollar players were so high, you know, like the $5,000, $6,000 players, you know, instead of having like a couple heavy hitters and then, you know, like some like low bargain bin, you know, low dollar guys and trying to make it work that way, I tried to keep it at an average of like, I get a lot of $2,000, $3,000 players. I think I only had 1 or 2 $4,000 players. So, you know, the first couple guys I got on my team are Rainey Stanzak. Been playing with Impact. You know, he's been playing most of the points. He's been really solid for them all year. I feel like he's really been the difference this year in bringing that whole squad together. I got 2 Ironmen on my team. I got Alex Goldman and Alex Rodriguez. I feel like, you know, yes, it's going to be a really snake-heavy field. You know, you got one of those big, long ladder snakes.
That center, though.
Alex Goldman's going to get in there, and then Alex Rodriguez, if that side starts getting opened up, Alex Rodriguez is going to come through the middle over there. You know, I got 3 guys from my team, Omaha Vicious. I got Matt Sossman because he's number 3 in the league right now statistically. He's shooting people on the break. He's staying alive. He's won a ton of one-on-ones this year, and, you know, he communicates really well. He's statting real hard. You know, I got Nate Schrader, who just came off probably the best event he's ever had, I've heard, up in the CXBL, winning the CXBL championship up there. He's on fire. He's our number 1 Dorito guy. I'm going with him. Brian Bortle, he owes me a bunch of kills. So, you know, I'm going to put my money on Brian Bortle. I expect to see him up in that snake with Shane Colby. You know, those guys are going to do a lot of work for me. I got 2 damage guys. You know, Dan Holiday, I feel like he's one of the best all-around players in the league. And, you know, he's always a great value. I kind of usually pick him. You know, I'd put him on any team that I'm ever with. And then last, you know, Keith Brown. You know, Keith Brown, I don't know if there's anybody in the league that's faster than he is. And I watched him run to the snake, you know, game after game after game, and, you know, I'm depending on him to get up in there and do work for me. So, again, I felt like I just went with, instead of having, you know, a bunch of high-dollar heavy hitters, you know, and then having, you know, some of those bargain bin guys that you know if you can get out, because that's bit me in the butt the past couple times.
I was kind of going.
You know, it's not like I picked Axel Godin for $200.
Whatever,
man.
I'll tell you what. Look, when you look at my team, I'm not going to say anyone on your team. I like your team. In fact, they got a couple crossovers actually on my team as well too. But I did go a little bit opposite. I did some bargain players. One, I mean, obviously, I like playing paintball fantasy. I love watching the games, and it gives me some guys to root for. But this is a snakes-heavy field, so I went heavy on all the snake side killers and just loaded it up. I definitely have Keith Brown and Shane Colby from your squad as well too. I think Shane's due. I'm looking forward to this. This is a straight snake, man. This is a snake where it's from one end of the field to the other, as we're going to see when you look at some of these plays that the pros and Todd are going to break down here for you. Is that, man, if you get down this, there's going to be it's going to be a bloodbath on that side of the field. So if you look at my team, man, you can see there on your screen, very snake heavy. So I picked up Axel Godin on that $200 right there, because even though they're not playing him very much, if they do let him spin, we've seen Axel Godin definitely do very well before.
And
so
they should let him.
They should let him
play.
They should
I'm just worried they're not going to let him play. They got to let him play.
Is that what you were thinking when
yeah.
But for $200, man, I mean, it's definitely a steal. And then I also went with JC. I went with JC Justin Cornell from Edmonton Impact. And also, Impact made it to the finals a ton of times. So the thing is where it's like, look, I want guys that, at least a couple of them, that I think are going to make it far in the tournament, which is honestly why I picked some Ironman guys. The Ironmen they never played down in the Challengers League. They've been kind of steadily but surely improving throughout the year. And I really think that Marcelo's been typically a D-side player, but he's played very well in that 2 position on the snake side. And so I'm thinking, all right, look, if I think they're going to send Marcelo as the 2 on the snake side, and they're going to put Alex Goldman in front of him, and he's coming off that injury. I think he's going to be hungry. He played in limited capacity at the last event. I think he's going to feast on this one, man. And then I got Grayson Goff. He's my lone guy, but he was a steal. I felt like he was a steal he was like 22 and change, I think. So I was kind of sitting there with about a little less than $3 grand left. I'm like, man, who am I going to pick? And I think that he's a smart guy on that D side. He's probably playing behind Scott. And I think that as a 2, he could also maybe shift over, because there's going to be so many bodies dropping off on that snake side. So I picked him up then, and Keith Brown. I got Keith Brown as well too. So yeah, man, that's my fantasy team. I think it's going to ride me all the way to victory.
I like it. I mean, I like where your head's at as far as I'm going to pick all the snake guys. See what those snake guys can produce for me. But man, I think I got a little bit higher level of average talent across the board. It's all about bang for the buck. In today's fantasy economy, you really got to spend your money wisely, Matty. And, being a fantasy financial analyst myself.
You are not a fantasy financial.
Exactly,
I mean, I guess for paintball you are.
Sure,
Anyway.
I'm not sure some of your picks here. But.
All right, well, we'll find out as the event plays out. So before we get to our first guest, Yosh Rao, and a quick commercial break, let's check out, actually we got a drill that Todd Martinez has come up with. I actually really like this drill. This is an interesting field. This is a very aggressive field. There's not a lot of back bunkers in the center. The snake is very dominant. There's fortresses in that center, and then the D side, you definitely can play over there too. So I think we're going to see real aggressive points, and it's going to be pretty chaotic. So Todd, when you were kind of thinking, okay, what drills can people be running for this specific layout, what was going through your head?
Well, the thing about I love the new layouts that we've been having, over the past year and a half with these wide open middles. Every time you see a field with a wide open middle, I love to have, those attacks go up through the center. That's why I got guys like A-Rod on my fantasy team, but guys on my team like Trevor Reeser, guys that I like to set up the middle, Zach Sherman. I want people to be able to read these gaps. We're gonna go to practice, and we're gonna practice running up the middle, looking to shoot the wide guys, because if you can get up there and shoot those wide guys on the way to the middle, I think it's going to be very beneficial to be up in that center of the field with a body dead and controlling that side of the field with a lot of area to come through and shoot guys on the opposite side of the field. It's like you always want to run up, shooting a guy that's running out wide through the middle, and then get up to that side of the A and then start wrapping on the opposite side of the field. So, I love the middle of the field. Like, yes, the snake's going to be important. The Dorito's going to be important. You always got to be able to get out to those sides. But, when it comes down to it, if people are shooting out your wide guys, you got to be able to get up the middle, try and create opportunities. So we're going to practice shooting guys running out to those front spots from that center can. So
basically, as you see there on the graphic, essentially it's one of those drills where you're sending 2 players up in that center, and then their whole job is to try, this is one of those like, okay, well, look, because like we had talked about this when we first saw the layout. There's probably going to be a lot of points scored on these. You could be down by 1 with 20 seconds left. How are you going to score that point? So in order to make that happen, you're going to have to be practicing drills like this. So you send 4 guys up in the center, 2 on both sides of the field, and their sole job in that drill, you know, these are just quick drills that you run over and over and over again. They're going to be shooting that wide guy, those 2 wide guys, as they try to get into those important bunkers up there in the snake and on that D side. And if you run this drill a lot, you're going to, you know, work that muscle memory in, and you're going to be able to make that effective shot, because that is how you can score quick points. I mean, quick points are completely dictated by the body count that comes off. So fundamentally important that if you are running all the way up to that center and they do send a guy out to the snake to try to slow you down, because if he makes it in there, he's going to have a great shot on that center and try to slow things down, you know, because we talked about how important this snake is. So yeah, I think that's a great drill for people to run. So yeah, that's definitely, when you guys go to practice here in the next couple weeks, that should be one that's in the repertoire for sure. So man, it's going to be a crazy one, man. I can't wait to see what happens at World Cup. But we have Yosh Rao coming up from San Diego Dynasty next, so please stick with us here. And after a quick commercial break, we're going to pick Yosh's brain, so stick around. So welcome back here to the breakdown. We are lucky enough to have paintball legend, a guy who's won over 50 paintball tournaments, and one of the core members of San Diego Dynasty, Yosh Rao, here to join me and Todd. So Yosh, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Thank you guys for having me on.
Oh, of course, man. So so we're heading into an event where it's kind of historic and not for a great reason for San Diego Dynasty. After having a really good beginning of the year where you guys pretty much dominated, you only lost one game at the first event, and it was to Infamous in the finals, and that was a 1-point game. Then you guys went into the next event and you won every single game, won the tournament, looked great doing it, in a very difficult field layout that was just tricking a lot of people out there. It was a very technical layout. You guys mastered that field. No one could take you down on that field. You literally did not lose a game. You scored 32 points in that tournament, only 16 points points were scored against you in that victory is very impressive. You started off Chicago Open very hot. You guys won 7-1 against 187. Came in and played San Antonio X Factor, defending world champs, who had a very good first event as well too. They made it all the way into the semifinals. And then you won that game 7-2. So then after that, it hasn't really been a great second half of the season for you guys. What's going on in your guys' head right now?
Yeah, I mean, we started off really strong. It's been tough lately. You know, I think a big problem that we've had is we've gotten a lot of penalties. You know, as everybody sees and as every team has felt, if you get a lot of penalties, you don't even give yourself a chance. You know, another thing is in the last tournament, especially, I felt like we weren't doing the little things right. You know, and that just promotes a bad feeling. I mean, when you have that feeling amongst your team where you just don't win those little battles and you feel like the little things aren't going your way, it just kind of brings everything down and you're not really having fun. And I think that's going to be a big deal for us going into the next event. It's just get back to doing the little things right and having more fun.
Well, let's kind of talk about the beginning part of the year when things were going right. Because when things are going right, San Diego Dynasty is a great team to learn from. You know, you guys have been, you know, the most legendary team ever. Your win count that you guys have stacked up over the past about, you know, you got back on the team in 2002, right? Because you and I played on the Ironman until I believe it was
2003.
2003. Mm-hmm. So so you started your career with the Ironman professionally, then went to Dynasty in 2003. So you've been on that team now for 11 years. Won a ton of tournaments, a ridiculous amount of tournaments. So when you guys are doing it right, you're a great team to learn from. Always an exciting team to watch, obviously.
Well, I think we're probably a good team to learn from when we're doing things wrong also. You know, it's probably really apparent. I mean, one of the biggest problems that we've had is focusing so much on the game plan and not focusing on, you know, winning those individual gun battles. And I think that's something we're going to have to get back to for World Cup. We're going to drill hard. We're not going to do as much scrimmage practicing. We're really going to focus on drills, getting the fundamentals down, and just going from there.
Well, but in top before, I just kind of want to bring you into the conversation too as well. You know, you played on Dynasty for years. You're a great coach and have won tournaments. Do you agree or disagree with Yosh? I think that's a great point, honestly, because I think that you guys have kind of started to focus, at least in the later part of the year, a little bit too much on the game plan, but the game plan that you currently are trying to make work instead of trying to evolve that game plan dictated to the field. What do you think, Todd?
It's tough with Dynasty, you know, because you know, Dynasty's capable of winning every game, every point at any time. You know, like Yosh was saying, you know, penalties really hurt your team. You know, we're the most penalized team in the league. At least we were at the beginning of last event, you know, with Omaha Vicious. And, you know, it's a constant struggle. And, you know, Dynasty doesn't just lose, you know, 6-7 games in a row, you know, because they're just playing bad. You know, like penalties definitely hurts a team really bad. But, you know, the Chicago Open, I mean, they caught Houston Heat and Tampa Bay Damage the second day, and, you know, I think, you know, Houston Heat ended up playing in the finals there, so they were a good team, you know.
That was a hot Houston Heat, that event, for sure.
Houston Heat was playing well. Tampa Bay Damage, they've really picked it up since the beginning of the season. They're always a team that's going to be a contender. And then, you know, sometimes you just have a bad event. You know, when you have a bracket like Art Chaos, Impact, Ironman, and 187, it's tough, you know. And if, you know, I mean, basically, I mean, we're not talking like Dynasty's horrible. I mean, you have one team that ends up playing the finals, one event, you lose one game to a good team in Damage, and then you go to the next event and you have a bunch of penalties, and everybody's not on the same page. This is a really competitive league. You know, I don't think that, you know, because Dynasty had one bad event, you know, 2 bad days of paintball, that all of a sudden you need to completely rethink everything. You know, like Yosh says, it's just getting back to the fundamentals. You know, sometimes you just got to, you know, stop, regroup. You know, everybody needs to go out and spend a little bit more time. And, you know, not to say that, you know, like this is a huge deal, but like, well, I mean, it's a huge deal. You know, preparation leading up to these events. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on before West Coast Open. We went to a bunch of weddings. You know, like we missed a bunch of weekends of practice. You know, and
well,
it's like.
And also to kind of touch on that, I mean, you had Glenn Takamoto getting married, core member of the team now, and Johnny Perchak, who was part of the legend of you guys coming up. You can't not go to Glenn Takamoto. I mean, half you guys were in those weddings.
Right. I mean, those weddings weren't really an option. You know, and the guys just have to be more accountable for using the time that they have to go out and put in the extra work. I mean, you guys know how that goes. I mean, there's going to be times where your personal stuff feels like it's overwhelming. You know, most people that play professional paintball also work other jobs. and you just have to find the balance. And if you want to compete,
I'm not making
you have to do it.
I'm not making excuses.
That's very true.
Like nobody wants to make excuses for anything, but like, I mean, Dynasty practices 2, 3, 4 weekends in a row before every event. When you miss a couple weekends and you don't have the preparation like you normally would, playing in a really competitive league, it's tough. And everybody has a bad day sometimes.
Well, and also in those games, I mean, you were competitive in a lot of these matches. The Art Chaos game was a 1-point game, 7-6. The Ironman was a 7-5 game. The 187 game, and 187 beat both Art Chaos, who won the tournament, and you guys. Yeah. So they played pretty well.
And that was a 1-point game.
Yeah, and that was a 1-point game too. So, and then you went and played Heat in the relegation game, and that was a 1-point game, 5-4.
Right, and I mean that makes those losses especially painful.
Yeah.
And it also makes you feel like, it puts more stress on doing those little things right. One less penalty, one extra kill. Those little things are what puts you over the brink and gets you to where you want to be. It puts W's in the win column. I mean, that's it. Those games are so close, and the parity in the league is so strong right now. You have to play your best. You have to show up for the weekend. You have to play your best. You have to play as a team. Everybody needs to be firing. And we didn't have that, and that's just something we have to get back to. I mean, it's, it sounds simple. It takes work, but I know we can do it. I mean, it's just a matter of getting everybody back on the same page.
Where was the team's head at directly after that event? Last game, you lose the relegation game. I'm sure it was a massive shock. You guys had never been in that position, never been in this position before. And it was interesting. I was when I got to the field for that day, and I was heading up to the tower to start calling games. I saw Oliver, and Oliver was out doing his run, and so Oliver's about to go play this relegation game, and I saw him, and he had a little bit of a smile on his face, not like he wasn't taking it seriously, and he stopped and gave him a hug real quick, and then I was like, "You ready for this?" And he's like, "Hey man, paintball's about adventure, and I guess you got to do everything once, and we've never done this before, so we're gonna head into this heads high." And I was like, "Hey man, it's a good attitude to have."
That's exactly right. I mean, it was something that was totally new for every single guy on our team, and each guy handles things differently, Everybody handles, losses, wins differently, and really the feeling going into it was some guys needed that extra little boost in confidence, because we had had a rough weekend. Some guys just needed to feel like this was just another paintball game. Ultimately, I don't think it was our mentality going into the game that was wrong or that was bad. I think it was just, some things were poorly executed. Following the game, we had some of our younger guys who felt like, gosh, a lot of this is on my shoulders and I feel responsible for this because this is something that Dynasty's never had to deal with before. And that's totally the backward way of looking at it. We need those guys. We need those guys to perform just as much as they need us to perform. And I mean, we're in this together. It's just like Todd said, we had a bad weekend. This league is set up so that you have to play your best, and if you don't, you get punished for it. That's why we're where we're at now. We've earned our way here. We're going to have to earn our way out.
I love that. That's a good attitude to have. So let's kind of touch real quick on, before we get to your plays and your drills and your fantasy team, let's touch on when it was going well. Because the beginning of the year, you guys were firing on all cylinders and just came out ridiculous. Again, in the first 2 tournaments, Dynasty only lost 1 game, and it was by 1 point in the finals to Infamous, who won the first event. So, preparation heading in and how you guys looked at Dallas, and those fields were very different. You had a much more aggressive field layout in Dallas, and then one of the more aggressive field layouts that we've had, and then you had an incredibly conservative layout at Mid-Atlantic Open, both of which you guys played great.
Right. I mean, I think what we've seen from the PSP so far this season is dynamic changes from field to field. One tournament to the next, these teams are coming out and playing with really aggressive game plans, and then some of them seem like they're super easy to lock down the entire field, which is going to dictate a slow pace of the game. It's up to us to figure out not only the best way to play, but how we want to play. Because there's different matchups and there's different things teams can do to kind of throw you off of your game plan. The Mid-Atlantic Open, I felt like we had practiced that field the way we were going to play it in the tournament. And we had some breaks go our way, and it just reinforced the way we were playing. I think if you had given all the teams a couple more matches that weekend, more teams would have started to figure it out. It was a slow field. That was it. The paint was good. The equipment was working fine. the weather conditions slowed down what could have been the faster part of the field. So it really played into the slow game plan that we had figured out. And it just kind of kept falling the way we expected it to.
Yeah, it was a really cool, interesting dynamic how you were able to show one side, one facet of the game, very quick and aggressive, and then you had some players that played well at the Dallas Open that didn't have great Mid-Atlantic Opens, and that because that was such a gunfight heavy field, and we already spoke about how you guys played at the last event. So before we get into your plays and your drills and fantasy, you personally as a gunfighter, I mean that's your stock and trade. You are known as one of the best gunfighters in the league, sometimes the best gunfighter, depending on the day, which is an incredibly impressive achievement. But that must have been a particularly tough kind of test for you. What did you think about that? Where was your head at?
At the Mid-Atlantic Open?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a particularly tough field because I was in a situation, the position I was playing, and I played a lot of points that event, is for the most part, I was shooting off into space and shooting at nothing. You know, I think for the entire finals match, we had five points or maybe 7 points maximum. I never saw a body on the snake side the entire time. So for me to play my style of paintball and hopefully have someone that's going to be engaged in a gunfight and hopefully win that gunfight, it was particularly tough for me to have the discipline to not wrap and try to find that gunfight or, you know, leave the job because nothing was going on. I mean, Impact did a good job of just giving me absolutely nothing to shoot at over there.
Yeah, and that takes the patience in order to do that, you know, which is kind of important because if you're playing, because a lot of guys play your spot, man. You know, there's a lot of guys watching out there that play your spot, and they want to know, okay, what is Yosh thinking?
And you want to be involved, you know. You want to always feel like you're contributing. And sometimes if you're not directly shooting at somebody or moving, you feel like you're not contributing, and that's what gets in your mind and throws you off. You know, it was the type of spot where you just had to stay dedicated to your job, communicate, and contribute in other ways other than actually grabbing kills off the field. You could be kind of like that back anchor and pass communication around and, you know, help with field awareness and stuff like that.
And then let's turn it to kind of where, you know, and the Todd also, you know, you guys had to, you know, you guys ended up middle of the pack at the last event, but then also, but you've had to play this position before. You started as front guy, you kind of moved back later on in your career as knees started to go. But when you're in those positions where things aren't going right, you know, and your front guys are coming off a lot, and you know you're the one or two last guys left alive, what's going on in your mind then? You know, at the last event, for instance, and as you started losing game after game after game by close margins most of the time.
That type of situation is just, if you play in the back, you don't have the responsibility of risking your body early, you know? So you have to be alive to finish those games off, and you have to be alive to, you know, basically give the reassurance to your front guys that they can take risks, you know? If your front guys aren't taking risks, then you're not going to go and get those aggressive kills. Some of these fields, especially the field for World Cup, front guys are going to have to take risks, you know? And they need to be reassured at practice and the tournament that they can go do that. And sometimes they trade out, sometimes they get the upper hand, sometimes they get blown out of the water, and the team still has a chance to win the game. You know, so you have a big responsibility playing in the back and being the communicator, but you also have to finish games, and you have to prove to your guys that they can go out and play the way they want to play, and everything's going to be all right.
Yeah, and Todd, you know, you've had Matt Sossman on your team this year, #3 ranked guy in the league right now. You know, like you said earlier, just stat stuffing out there, putting up big numbers. What are you saying to him, you know, or what do you see out of guys that are in that position when the bodies start to drop? What do you try to tell those guys when they get in those positions? Because, you know, you can pull things around. You don't see it all the time, but you've done this. You became legendary in your career for pulling off low body situations. You know, what are you telling your guys?
Keep your composure. You know, like Yosh said, you know, it's all about discipline. You know, for 5 straight points at the MAO, you know, Yosh literally, there's a cut, there's the A, and then there's that little temple, and he probably just shot 12 pods a point straight through that cut because you couldn't see the 2 guys that were doubled up at that can. You know, but if that guy went, then you had to hit that guy. You know, and it's just like, you know, the composure, the discipline, the poise to play that spot. You know, it's not something that you just you know, wake up with. You know, like you develop it. You know, you have it inside of you, but like you got to bring it out. You know, you got to develop that and understand that situation. Just like Yosh said, you know, he's been in that situation so many times. He understands it and expects it. He's ready for it. You know, and you just got to let them know. You know, don't come out of character when you come into those situations. Be smart. Be ready for that to happen. You know, if your front guys die, know how to make your adjustments, and you know, if they're in there and they're alive and they're getting their work going, then you know, you got to know how to support them. You know, and it's just just knowing your job and making sure that you're doing your job every single game to the best of your ability.
And so before we move quickly on to your drill, you're playing fantasy team. Where's the headspace right now heading into this next event? What are you looking at that schedule? You're playing Top Gun, CEP, Excessive, and Infamous, and you play Infamous in the last match. So just have you guys talked about it at all, or you kind of gave it a little breather before this last event?
We've talked about it a little bit. It was fairly easy to see what the bracket was going to be after the event was over. I think the big thing for us is to focus on us right now. When we go out there and we have to play against a team, we're going to have good scouting. We have a great coach in Rusty. We have a lot of guys that contribute. We have a great support crew. The scouting report is going to come, especially leading up to that Infamous game, which is obviously going to be a challenge. They're a great team. But we'll have some games to study before we play against them. I think the biggest thing is we just have to have our game plans and be ready to execute them. I always feel like everybody's going to bring their hardest game against Dynasty. That's just the way it's been for a long time. So we have to expect people are going to be playing their very hardest. They're going to be focused, and they're going to be trying to take us down. So we just have to go in, focus on us, and roll the dice.
Well, can't wait to see it. It's going to be pretty exciting. So let's talk about your the play that you have decided to. And again, these are when you go into practice, it's all about just trying to figure out what's going to work. Yeah. And do you guys normally come with a ton of different plays, or do you have 3 or 4 that you run, 2 that you run? You start out one way.
On Dynasty, we've always kind of developed this thing called the bread and butter, right? And I think every team develops this one play that they really like, that they feel is going to be their base play for the tournament. Totally depends on the field layout. Really depends on who you're playing against, whether your bread and butter is going to work. Sometimes there will be one player out there that will do a particular thing that will disrupt your bread and butter play. For this field, we've had a few days on the field now. We had a great practice against Impact and Aftershock at Badlands, and we figured out that this is going to be a really snake-heavy field. A lot of kills come from the snake. I feel like whichever team has the last man standing over there is going to do well. So we came up with a power snake play to try to get kills off the break and filter bodies that way, and hopefully end up with the last man standing over there.
Cool. Well, let's check it out real quick here. So, talk us through this real quick, Yosh. There's just D-side guys.
You can't neglect having bodies on the D side. When you have to have guys that are going to play smart over there, take advantage of opportunities when they're open. So, the Dorito side corner is really strong. Not only is it a livable spot, it's a makeable spot off the break. And you can also put a lot of pressure wrapping around and keep the other team honest in the Doritos. So we're gonna take the Dorito corner. We're also gonna take one of the insert spots so that we can have a gun that way.
So you can kind of put guys in different spots depending on how.
Right. There's a few good spots that are makeable, and those interior spots are not only good for shooting from the back center and then fading into them, but they're also going to be good launching spots for playing aggressively on the Doritos when the opportunity arises. After that, we're going to have 3 bodies, heavy snake way. We're going to try to have 2 or 3 guns up. We can either take the corner straight off the bat, or there's a little blind spot behind the California that we can stop at and put an extra gun, either into the center to help our snake runner, or have that extra gun to just put more paint in the air flying to the snake side of the field. An obvious shot on this field is stepping out to that back center Dorito and shooting the snake cut. There's a couple different ways you can do that. You can put paint into the center first, or you can have that guy completely dedicate his gun to the snake cut to make sure they don't get in there. And then there's a lot of great spots in the center of the field where someone can crouch down or take a couple steps forward into a blind spot and shoot for the snake corner or the snake.
So, and then also that center guy, he could either go up to center, or he could also dig back out to the snake and then power down that side. There's a lot of options.
In a typical game, if we put 3 guns on the snake and we know they're running to the snake, we expect to see that kill come off. So that gives that guy the option to go up to the center of the field and lock it down. If that kill doesn't come off, or if the other team doesn't give us the body and doesn't run to the snake, now we can filter his body to the snake side and have 3 guys pushing heavy down the snake.
Just gives you a lot of options.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of what you want out of that bread and butter play.
Absolutely.
A lot of audible possibilities.
Absolutely. And we want to focus a lot of energy and a lot of paint down the snake tape so we can take control and move our guy up. A lot of kills come from snake 4, snake 5, getting on the other team's side of the field. So we're going to focus on just bullying our way down the snake, get kills, and just have our Dorito guys stay alive to finish the game.
And we always say, what's the best way to help out your front guy? Shoot the guy in front of him.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you can do it early, that's the best way.
Okay, so as far as the drill is concerned, your drill kind of plays off of the mentality of make sure that you take care of that
this drill that we're going to talk about next, it plays off of the mentality of going heavy down the snake. It's not going to be typical of every situation because bodies are going to come off. But what we're going to focus on here is 3 bodies down the snake. So you're going to have to be engaged from front, mid to back in not only getting down the snake, but controlling the other team. And it's really going to help our back guys who are going to be playing in that corner kind of figure out where all those different shots are going to be coming from. Because the snake player can actually put a crunch on that back corner guy by playing the inside. He can get a lot of kills across field, and as soon as he does that, our back corner guy needs to know that the snake guy can wrap the inside and put shots on him, or the other team can filter out to the god, which is the feeder to the snake, and he can also shoot you in the loader. So it's going to be a tough spot to play, but the more opportunities you have to be in that situation and be feeding communication and controlling the tape, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, and Todd, as we've seen many times, how important is that? That's such a fundamental drill to run, where you have, and you can do different options for it, where you can have 3 guys in where they start, okay, snake 1, insert, and then the back bunker, or put a guy in a different spot and kind of just run variations of that to see, 1, who's playing good over there, 2, who has those instincts that they've cultivated all year long and through their careers, and who's kind of got it going on, because a lot of teams have options on that snake side, and you want to know, okay, well, who's going to be on 1, who's going to be a 2, on this field, that's kind of a little bit of a gray area.
Right, yeah. And a big difference can be just who's communicating well with who, which guys are playing together.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know, what do you think? So you guys going to run that one? I mean, I'd be running that one.
It's going to be, I mean, you have to do drill after drill after drill in that snake side. I mean, some of the best tournaments that we've ever played have come with a snake that looks like this, and it's like, this isn't, like, all year we've seen how it's kind of been, you have these segmented snakes. When we went to Chicago and you had that snake that was linked up, what did we see? Moorhead, Moorhead, Chad George, and then Daniel Holiday and Chad Bougier, just running face first into each other. Justin Cornell getting in there and just slamming into each other. That's the type of snake this is. I think one of the funnest matches we ever played was way back, when we played the Russians for the first time, and it was like, Dynasty Russians to, just like the best teams. It was that snake, and it was just game after game. Oliver, Fedorov, Miko was on that Russians team. It was just that is snake play. That is how the snake started. It's that one big long beam. Who's going to go after it? Who's going to get in there? It's going to be a bunker fest. Dudes are going to be, fist flying.
And that's why I love seeing snakes like this, is because it is a throwback. And also, before we let you go, Yosh, I want to kind of pick your brain on a couple teams that you are not going to be seeing this event because you guys are in the Challengers division, but that you are pretty familiar with. Impact, Damage, Art Chaos. Art Chaos won the last event. Impact has had a phenomenal year, been very consistent, and Damage has kind of been nipping at everyone's heels, just hasn't had enough to get through. What are you thinking about those 3 teams? Let's start with Impact.
I mean, like you said earlier in the broadcast, those 3 teams have an opportunity to win every event they play in, and you expect those teams to be in the finals. There's only room for 2 in the finals, but you would expect it to be at least 2 of those 3 teams, Impact has had a great year. I mean, they made some big changes in the offseason. They picked up some key guys. I mean, Dave Baines and Rainey have been great for them. They've picked up some younger guys, too. Danny Park has been playing great in the Snake. And really, the biggest standout for me has been the Canadian players that they have. I mean, those guys have been really solid for a long time, but the Yakmak brothers have really come into their own.
Absolutely. Zach is having a phenomenal year.
Justin Cornell is playing as his normal, solid self. And I've seen Josh pull off some amazing games, too. So, I mean, I give their success and their consistency, a lot of the credit goes to those Canadian players. I
totally agree. I think that the core of Impact is done very well. And speaking of the core of the team, our Chaos really, I think, finally kind of wised up a little bit and started running their main squad, which are just comprised of straight legends, the 4 best Russian players ever to pick up a paintball gun, and they ended up coming away with a win at the last event.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about a core of a team, those guys define that. I mean, those guys will run those guys every single point until the tournament is over, win or lose. And it's been a formula that's worked for them. Even when they weren't playing on Art Chaos and they're on other teams throughout the league, that's become the core of the team because those players are so strong. I expect them to play really well. It's a strong snake, and I think they have some great players that are going to play well in the snake too.
And as far as, you know, having great players in the snake, Damage has shown throughout the years to have some really consistent guys. I think Keith Brown has come into his own. He hasn't really performed, I think, up to his potential in a few games this year. Timmy Probst is super solid. They just have a lot of options over there. We've seen Holiday over there. We've seen Chabuzier over there. I mean, they have a lot of different looks they can throw at you on that snake.
That's absolutely right. I mean, the guys that you mentioned that you can always rely on are their veteran guys. Also, I mean, people usually think of Dalton Vanderbilt as a Dorito player. There's no doubt in my mind that they're going to be running him to the snake this event.
Really?
You know?
You think so?
Absolutely. I mean, he's going to do damage there. No pun intended. But he's a fantastic snake player. He's got wheels. You know, if anyone can make the snake off the break, it's going to be him. And he's a really smart player. He's going to know exactly how to play it.
So one more question before we let you go. You were talking earlier about how the team needs to have fun again. You've been doing this for a long time. I've known you real well for a long time as well too. And so I'm kind of interested. Are you having fun, man? Still?
Oh,
Is
yeah,
this still something that you dig?
I think each year presents a new challenge. You know, and each new group of guys also changes the dynamic of the team. And I mean, I've been so happy with the group of guys that we have. I mean, we haven't had a ton of turnover as far as the roster goes. We've got some really dynamic players, and we also have guys that are completely dedicated to winning and doing what it takes to win. You know, when I'm surrounded by guys like that, it makes me feel like I'm on a team, and that's where I want to be. You know, I have the most fun when I feel like I'm a part of the team. You know, I have a great time just hanging out with the guys. I have a great time working hard with the guys. And like our coach always reminds us, you know, it's not necessarily about the result, it's about the process, you know. So you really have to enjoy the process, and while you're there, enjoy it. We're not going to be able to do it forever. These days are here now, they'll be gone later, and just make the best of them.
Well, I wish you the best at World Cup.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you back in the Champions Division. We're going to find out Sunday morning if they make it, so that's one of the big reasons to tune in. So thank you very much, Yosh Rao, and we're going to be right back after this short message with Scott Kemp from the defending world champion San Antonio X Factor. Stick around.
The JT ProFlex LE is built on a timeless design and hands down the most comfortable goggle system in the world. With a removable visor, unrivaled soft ears for added comfort, thermal lens with 270-degree field of vision, one of the most upgradable modular mass systems available, and as an extra bonus, an additional smoke spectra thermal lens is included. The JT ProFlex LE goggle system, available at jtpaintball.com.
Welcome back to the breakdown. We got Scott Kemp from returning champions, PSP champs, San Antonio X Factor. Scotty, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matty.
Man, you guys had such a great event at the World Cup last year. We're about to head into the World Cup again here. It's, October 10th, right around the corner. That was such a huge win for you guys last year, and that come from behind victory against Impact. Impact and then came into this year and had a ridiculous year. They got a PSP win, a couple second places. You guys haven't really had the year that you wanted to have. You actually even went down into the Challengers Division, but then dominated the Challengers Division en route to coming back up to defend your title. Where is everyone's head on the team right now?
Well, after Chicago, after we got relegated from the Vicious match, right away we had a meeting with everybody. Alex gathered everyone together and said, well, we have one goal, win the World Cup. So our stepping stone was, let's get out of West Coast Open, let's get out of the relegation, or get out of the Challengers, sorry, and come back in. So we did that, and now our next step is to win the World Cup. So that's where everyone's head has been since Sunday afternoon of Chicago. And everybody's really focused, and it kind of, reality sets in, when you get relegated, and it really checks your ego, and people really know where they stand. And I mean, anyone can get relegated. You look at Dynasty, they got relegated, and they've been one of the top teams. So.
Well, there's only been a couple teams that haven't got relegated, and
right.
also that haven't played in a relegation match.
Oh, yeah.
So the level of play between all these teams is incredibly close. It's never really been this close before, which is incredibly entertaining to watch. It's got to be nail-biting, though, as a team, because you know that you have to bring, there are no gimme games anymore. I mean,
oh, no.
There's been, 187's been laying people down in the relegation games. Some of the other teams that, have been flirting on the, mid to lower level are now, taking seconds and beating big teams as well, too. There really is no big two or three teams that are just wrecking shop anymore. Right. Everyone's got a chance.
Anyone could win.
Yeah, and that's what makes it really exciting to watch, but it's got to make it kind of, again, a little scary to play. I mean, I know you're not thinking about that right away, but I mean, just talk to me a little bit about that. Is that something that's on your mind in there a little bit? Maybe just like in the dark corner of your mind, kind of? What do you think?
Anything could happen. The games are so close nowadays. Anybody can beat anybody. Anybody has beat anybody. So there's no gimmies anymore, like you said. There's no real big blowouts anymore. Everything's so close. So.
Yeah, you guys did, though. I kind of want to, again, just like we did with Yosh, talk about the year and where your guys' heads are at. But, let's talk about the last event, West Coast Open.
Okay.
You guys went 5-1. Mm-hmm. The only loss that you had was to Revo.
Right.
And that came right out the beginning, out the gate. Very first game. And it was a really close match as well, too. So was that another one of those kind of like, oh, my God, man, we got relegated, and now we play Revo. This is a team we should be beating because they just got into the Challengers Division. And no one knew at the time that they were then going to start running away with it in the prelims, but they beat you guys in a real close match, 5-6. What was going on in your head that game?
Well, going into that game, to be honest, I've never even heard of them before. But all respect, anybody can shoot anybody.
Well, that's how you start remembering people's names, is when they take you down.
And we were up, I believe, 4-1, and we were winning that match. They were playing really good. Every point, we're like, okay, these kids can ball. And it ended up going overtime. I think we tied up 4-4, and then they beat us in the overtime point. So yeah, we lost, but they played really well, and we came off that match not feeling cheated. Not like penalties. We straight up lost to them. They beat us, and we knew, okay, it's getting serious. Like we gotta win these next matches, and I mean, they played us really well. They beat us fair and square. So.
Well, you guys kind of went to town after that. You beat Boom 7-1, you beat CEP 7-1, you beat Red Storm 6-0, and then you beat Aftershock in the semis 7-0. I mean, your final plus or minus was 38 points scored for you guys and 12 for the opposition.
Yeah.
So you kind of made a statement to the league like, okay, well, fair enough, we got relegated, but we don't deserve to be down here. We're going to prove that. We want to get back to defend our title.
Right, and I think that first Revo game did kind of shake us up a little bit. And give us a little more fire.
Well, yeah, I mean, it gets even worse. If you take that game away, the points margin gets even worse for everybody else. So let's kind of talk about the beginning of the year. You guys took third in Dallas, and that was, that was a pretty good one. you did lose to Vicious, and Todd, I kind of want to bring you into the conversation here. X Factor came in brutal when they decimated everyone in the prelims. You guys then had to play, and so before I get to your answer, what were you thinking headed into play San Antonio X Factor? Give me the PC version, because I know you were screaming at everyone in the pits to win. Because you guys ended up winning that game, and then you guys went on to take second place.
Well, to be honest, like, you kind of pumped me up, before that morning, because X Factor had been coming back. This is the first event after X Factor wins the World Cup. Okay, they come into Dallas. They having a lot of slow starts, end up coming back every single game in the prelims to beat every single team they played. 4-0 in the prelims, and we're going to play them in the morning. And they played the last prelim game of Saturday, in a comeback victory again. And you're like, oh man, who's going to take down X Factor? So I'm like, okay, all right, like, okay, I want that challenge.
Well, I mean, X Factor heading in, you guys were the favorites. You guys just won the World Cup, and you beat Impact. So, and then you guys played so well in the prelims in that first event.
Yeah, and we end up going. We went up, I want to say 5-0, and then I think 6-1 in that game.
Yep.
Then Shane Colby gets a major penalty. X Factor comes back.
Hey, if you guys haven't seen that game, you need to go back and watch that game.
Everybody's freaking out.
That was a nail biter game. It was an incredibly impressive game to watch.
And then they end up tying it up, I believe 6-6, and we got a minor penalty. So we're playing 4-on-5. And Zach Sherman and Parker Rosenthal, I believe, just had a heck of a game, and we were able to win that last point and beat X Factor. But I mean, they were smoking people down.
Well, that was when I was like, look, the core of Omaha Vicious came to play paintball this year because it was the core that got you guys there. But talking about the core, Scotty, I mean, you came to X Factor last season as a player that had played for years on different teams and had become a real solid veteran through many years of struggle and doing very well. And then you came not as a core, but your core has played very well. You played great at World Cup to help win that tournament. What was it like coming on to X Factor kind of as an outsider to start with? Because now you guys are, you're out there a lot in Texas, and you've become a real fundamental team member.
Yeah, it's my team now. I mean,
you told me you wanted to retire with this team.
Yeah, and I mean, we clicked right away. I've been friends with all the guys. I've known them all for a while. We see each other at all the tournaments and stuff. And yeah, we get along great. And honestly, we hit it off right away. And after a couple practices, I felt at home. So.
Yes. I gotta say, like when the year before Scott went to X Factor, he played World Cup with us, and I was with Infamous, and I really wanted to keep Scotty that next year. And then I really felt like him, making that decision to go to X Factor was not only great for him, but great for X Factor, and it definitely showed at that World Cup. Like really picked it up all that whole next year.
Well, the thing is, X Factor has kind of had that unfulfilled promise for a lot of years heading into last season, and always on the cusp. Really proved it to everyone by winning that World Cup. But I think you did a great job on that D side on the attack. But I think that's one of the best things about your team now is you have this awesome full field attack. I mean, Archie and Colt are killing it. You and Grayson are amazing on that D side, and then you got Meter and Michael and Bernaccia and the Snake. I mean, you got some great back players too. So it's really become this like fundamentally core strong team across the board.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's very well balanced. We definitely have a strong presence across the whole board. Doritos side, up the center, Snake side, as well as our shooters.
So what do you think though has you have exactly the same roster except with the addition of Michael coming back from the Russians last year, which I honestly think makes the team stronger because he's been on the team for so long, and now you have even more options out there. So and the meters got better too. So pretty much the same team you had last year when you won.
Right.
But it had been kind of a struggle. Other than that third place that we just talked about at the first event, you guys took 5th, and then you took 9th in Chicago, sending you down, and then you came back and dominated. But that kind of beat in the beginning, or not after the beginning of the year where you took 3rd, which was awesome. But then things kind of started to go downhill a little bit. What was going on?
Honestly, our problem, I think, that we've had all year long is that we just have a slow start.
All those come from behind.
Sunday afternoon, X Factor Paintball, we are on fire.
Yeah.
If we get there. So we got to get there. And it's honestly every match, we get so much better every match. And it's like our first match, we are just so slow.
What do you think that is?
I don't know. I think a lot of it is just individual players, just including myself, that we all just need to step it up right away.
Get a little focused a little bit quicker.
Yeah, because
it's tough though. Sometimes it does take a little bit of time. Vicious has had the same problem. You guys get a slow start too.
The event that they got relegated, they had a slow start because that was Chicago. I think you were missing Grayson the first day.
True.
You were missing a guy. Billy was hurt. Right?
Yeah, Billy was hurt. And
I think that definitely played a part into it. I think the 2013 team got off to slow starts because of penalties. The 2014 team, or the end of 2013 and the 2014 team, kind of fixed those problems.
Yeah.
But, like they played well in Dallas. They played well in MAO, and then Chicago, they had a slow start because of missing those guys. I think that definitely hurt them.
That really did hurt us. We're generally a pretty organized team in the pit, have everything together really well, and those first two matches on Friday, those first two prelim matches, we were so unorganized. We were missing guys. We were missing our coach. Where's our paint? I need pods.
This is Chicago you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was a lot. And again, this wasn't because of any sort of misorganization you guys had. This was a storm hit, and the guys couldn't get in.
The guys couldn't get in, so we were down players playing our first two prelim matches on Friday. We didn't have our whole team until Friday night.
Yeah, because even for us on the production side, like Chris Lasoya, one of our co-hosts, he ended up he got rerouted to Milwaukee, had to drive from Milwaukee, so he didn't get in until the next day because he couldn't even get into the city that we're trying. And that was everybody's problem.
Yeah.
So that was a tough one. So chalk Chicago up to that, but it ended up kind of biting you guys
because it put us into that relegation because we ended up going 2-2.
Yeah.
But we lost our first two matches, and I honestly think we would have won that Heat game. I think we would have beat them if we had our roster and we were organized.
Well, what's crazy about Chicago is that you guys were the Icemen again for San Antonio X Factor. So if you guys match up against Vicious, you guys kind of owe them a little bit now.
Yeah.
I mean, they knocked you out the semifinals for them to take second, and then they relegated you guys down to the Challengers Division this year.
Yeah, that was a rough match, especially when you have three in the box.
Yes.
Can't really do much.
So heading into this event, you guys know that you're defending champs. Everybody knows that. Do you have a little bit of a swagger, or is it something you want to stay humble because you don't want to come out flat again? What are you thinking?
I think that honestly, coming out of the challengers is good for us going into Cup. Because everybody's humble and hungry, and we know what our goal is, and everyone has the same thing on their mind. Let's get a back-to-back championship. So
that would be pretty amazing for your careers. Just as one of those feathers that you get to put in your cap.
Yeah.
You already have one. If you could win another one, and again, the same team is now going to play this event, and that's only going to make you stronger. And you should be pretty hungry with the way that the year has gone on. I kind of want to pick your brain about two teams that are in your division, Houston Heat and the Ironman. One of those teams you're very familiar with. You played on the Los Angeles Ironman for a long period of time. You're going to be playing them in the prelims, and also Houston Heat. What are you thinking about those two matchups?
I think Ironman will be a little tougher team on this field because it is going to be very snake dominant, and they're going to get down the snake. They're not afraid to push down the snake.
They have
bunker
a
guys
ton
out.
of guys that play in that snake.
Yeah, so I think they'll play that field really well.
But Heat does too.
Heat does too. Honestly, they'll be good as well. You'll see LJ up the middle, I believe, and you'll see Dizon and Sewers over on that Dorito side, and they're pretty consistent. They'll hold it down, but yeah, honestly, I think it's going to come down to their front snake guys, and who is playing that snake the best is who's going to really shine.
Yeah, and we have a play and a drill, your fantasy team as well too. But before, we'll put you on the spot real quick. You know, you're well known as the fitness guy in paintball. It's one of those great success stories. I actually got a chance to do a podcast with you. So if you haven't seen or listened to the podcast, check it out on the site. Got to talk about Scotty's history and how he kind of morphed his body into willed it to be what he wanted to be. Not starting out as great as he wanted to, but ended up really doing that. Now this is your career. So I kind of want to and you have got a couple ebooks out now too, right? Two
books out now. One is The Roadmap to Getting Shredded. It's strictly losing body fat, building lean muscle, staying healthy, covers nutrition, training, diet, all that. And then the new one that I actually just released a couple weeks ago is Paintball. It's specifically for paintball. It's performance training for the paintball athlete. And that one doesn't cover nutrition. It's specifically for paintball agility and speed training, and it progresses over a 15-week period. So anywhere from beginner or advanced can hop in and get started.
Where can people get that?
They can get it off my website, scottkempfitness.com.
Now, this is why I want to put you on the spot. So if you, and I know we only have a couple weeks before World Cup here, but if somebody wants to get faster for next year, or you know, what do you think would be the very first thing that they should do as far as, you know, workout would be for paintball? Because there's a lot of guys out there, I'm assuming, that want some sort of regimen heading into the off season.
My two simple advices that I always give everyone is, number one, focus on your diet to lose excess weight, because if you're carrying even 5 pounds of extra body fat that you don't need, that's, you know, that's an extra, four pods on your back, right? So, you know, focus on your diet, try to lean out as much as you can coming into the World Cup. And number two, resistance sprints. How
much weight could you lose in 2 weeks if you got, or 3 weeks if you got serious about it?
As far as body fat, 2 pounds of body fat per week is the average. So any more than that, you're going to be losing water weight and muscle mass. So about 2 pounds a week is a consistent base to go off of, where you're actually losing quality body fat.
Yeah, but if somebody took it seriously, but I mean, you could actually do a really huge quantum leap between, you know, during the off season if you really took it seriously.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So yeah, when a lot of guys come up to me and say, you know, hey, I want to get faster at paintball, you know, what's my first move? Well, if you're 40, 50 pounds overweight, your first move is dropping that extra body fat. You're going to be a smaller target, and obviously you're going to be faster no matter what. And then my other advice is, as far as speed goes, resistance sprints. You know, uphill sprints, sprinting up stairs, parachute, weighted bags, whatever it is, putting that resistance, making it harder than it's going to be when you're actually on the field. Because you're running on the field with a gun in your hand and a loaded pack. So you want to give yourself a little more resistance so that actually when you're running with that pack and that gun, it feels lighter than what you've been trained with. So those are my two advices I'd give.
Nice. Well, I hope you guys take that advice, get ready for next year or even World Cup if you want to take it super seriously. So let's talk about your play. So when you came up with the play for this specific event, something you guys are either have been running in practice or going to be running in practice, what was going through your head?
So my play is basically 3 snake, 2 Dorito. Your Dorito side, I'm going, let's get wide. So I'm going Dorito 1 because I think the Dorito 1's going to be easier to make than that corner.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah?
As far as what I've seen from practice of this last week, your second guy coming out on that Dorito side, he's going to edge back up in that blind spot, which is going to help your Dorito guy get there. And then he also has the option to shoot out for the wide Dorito guys. So those are your 2 guys on that Dorito side, and they're really on an island over there. You know, you lose one and they can almost,
that's one of the things I really noticed about this field. Unless you get a lot of penetration up that center and you guys really start talking, there's really not going to be, I mean, you're kind of on an island.
You are. So you got to be consistent over there. On my snake side, we're going snake off the break. We're getting all the way down there. So get down there, Billy. So get down that snake side, get all the way down. Then the secondary guy on that snake side, he's going to step out to that back Dorito, and he's going to shoot for their snake side, or he can adjust to the corner if he sees them going there. And then he's going to fill into that little lay down behind the snake, filling in behind him. And then if the snake guy is able to get down there, he's going to fill in with the snake. And I like 2 in the snake.
So you would then pause the guy, shoot off the break, help your snake guy get in, make those guys flinch, and then would you send him out wide? There's so many options. I guess
like
it really
him. If
depends
we're
on
in the
what's gonna
50
happen.
snake, then he follows in with him, and he gets in that knuckle.
So you have all the bodies up there.
Yeah, and then the 5th guy, he's off that snake side as well, and he's going to shoot towards anybody floating in that back center dead zone area. He can catch people going up to that center can. He can catch people doing the same dead zone as him, and then he's going to fill into that center Dorito. And he's going to stay that snake side unless we lose a body on the Dorito. So ideally, you're going 3 snake, 2 Dorito.
Yeah, and then everyone's on an island pretty much. So giddy up down your side and make it work, right?
Yeah.
Because there's not going to be a lot of options to float guys back and forth.
No, not really. I mean, like I said, if you lose one of the Dorito guys off break, you do have that center Dorito guy. He can adjust and switch his gun left onto that Dorito side to at least slow that side down, and then he can swing over if he has to. So, you know, we're not stuck 3 and 1. But for the most part, yeah, if everybody's alive, we're going 3 heavy snake way and 2 Doritos, and they're on an island over there.
And as far as the drill that you want to run for this particular layout, again, everyone out there listening, going to be getting ready for World Cup, tons of teams going to be out there, so people around the world kind of want to know what the pro teams are doing.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking for a drill for this layout?
So this drill I created is for myself. It's a Dorito side drill.
It's a D-side drill?
It's a D-side drill.
That's good, because we already saw the snake side drill.
Because, like I was just saying, that Dorito guy is going to be on an island over there. He's got to be consistent. So you're going to put a guy in the Dorito one, and you're going to put a guy in that temple behind him. And on the snake side, that guy's just going to shoot cross field at the Dorito one guy just to make sure he's playing it tight, because you do have to play that thing tight when the snake's hot. His goal is to put in his mirror, which they have a direct shot heads up with each other. So he's going to battle his mirror in, wrap on that temple, and he's got to get into the 50 Dorito. Now, most likely he's going to have to stop into the little Dorito before, and then he's going to have to battle them again and then work his way into the 50s. So really the drill is for that Dorito one guy to battle his way into the 50 Dorito, and most likely the guys holding him up are going to be his mirror and that temple. The snake guy, he's just going to sit there and, he can just one ball and kind of just keep that Dorito guy.
Honest. But just like in a real game situation, because this is going to happen, a lot. I mean,
exactly.
Todd, this is something you see all the time, right?
Absolutely.
You're going to have to play tight and low out of that Dorito, because when that snake knuckle is hot, the way we were playing it in practice, as soon as that guy's hot, he has a pack hit if you're not tucked in there. So honestly, that's going to be the Dorito side battle you're going to see a lot. 80% of the matches or more, that's going to be the battle that's going on that Dorito side. And if they're on an island, if people are playing this field 3 and 2, like I assume it's going to be, that role is actually going to be really important.
Todd, do you think we're going to see, I mean, obviously you have a lot of belief in the guys that play the D side for Vicious. How much do you think this D side is really going to play a factor on a really snake-heavy field layout like this?
I mean, it's huge. When you have these type of snakes, and you send your 2 guys out there to the Dorito side, like Scotty says, it's really important that you get both those guys out there alive.
Yeah.
But again, when that snake battle goes down, it's all about recognizing, the madness that's going on the snake side, and those guys making smart moves. You got to make sure you get out to your spot and don't lose a silly gun battle right away. It really hurts your team when you get out there and then all of a sudden, your guy leans into a ball with his first snap shoot battle and he dies, and then next thing you know, that one guy is sitting there trying to fend off not only the attackers coming down the snake side, but now he's fighting 2 guys that are in front of him. So those guys really have, if you're only sending 2 guys to that side, as it is with any side, you only send 2 guys, those guys have to be really, really smart and have to make really good decisions on their gunfights. Like I said, keeping your body tight from the side of the field where it's really going, hard gun battling all over the place, and then, make the bumps when the window's open.
Well, I was also thinking too, is that how important is it that, okay, think about this. Okay, if Snake is heavy as it is and everyone's going to be just going to town and attacking, just straight trench warfare over there, I mean, think about it. The more the teams that have less stupid deaths, looking out into balls, not realizing, not understanding where the streams are coming from on that D side. So it's going to take very smart D side players to both see the chaos and play off that's going down on the Snake side, but also stay alive when those guys do get up if possible. So, the heads up play on the D side is going to be huge over here.
Huge.
Yeah, which is the way it always is anyway. I mean, that's kind of a maximum in paintball regardless. But particularly on this particular layout, I really think that that's going to play a huge factor. So, your D side guys, especially if there's just 2 of them over there, they're really going to have to kind of suck it up on that side of the field. Yeah. So before we say goodbye, let's talk about your fantasy team. What was the logic? What was the logic that you went with that?
So, obviously, how to stack my team with most of X Factor players.
Guys, yeah.
I Ryan Brad
won last year, and it worked out that way.
I almost had to do the same thing. I'm sitting there looking at it like, do I pick all my guys? Because that was kind of good mojo.
It was definitely good mojo for Ryan last year.
I was going to tell you, like, hey, am I biting his style if I do that? Am I stealing his mojo?
Works, man. No, you got to go.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it just to make it interesting.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk through your guys.
Okay, so starting from the top, Axel, $200. So give me a couple kills and I'll get my money's worth.
Hopefully they'll give him a chance
Hopefully
to play.
he gets out there,
Because he's
burning
good.
money.
Yeah.
Burning seller.
I grabbed Rainey Stanzak. He's been playing really well for Impact. Impact's having the best year of their entire existence.
There's a phenomenal year for Impact. They're the probably going to win the title, depending on what happens. We'll see.
So Rainey's going to go off, so I threw him in there. Archie always goes off, and you know, he gets more reps than anybody on our team. So, and he always pays out his fantasy.
Well, Archie's the #1 guy by far.
Yeah.
I mean, Marcelo
He's like
Margot.
$7,000.
Yeah, well, I know, that's what I was thinking too. I mean, Archie is the #1 guy by almost 10 points, and Marcelo Margot is, he's definitely not hot on his heels, but the next closest guy is Marcelo. But I mean, it's going to take a dire event for Archie for Marcelo to even have a chance, and Marcelo's going to have to kill everyone and get no penalties. So, I mean, Archie almost has the Top Gun award locked up, so it does make sense. But he's the most expensive guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's been very consistent.
Well, rightfully so, though. Yeah.
So, yeah, he was a great buy. And then Meter, Dimitri. So
I got Meter on my team.
I mean, people say he looks like me, and he's on my team, so why I have to buy him, obviously.
Well, I thought he was your younger brother. He's not your younger brother?
No, you know, from another mother. So that's my boy. Had to pick him. Got to throw Dixon in there. He's my boy as well, and he's been playing really well on this field from the last practice. Grayson. Anytime we're in a 2-on-2 scenario, we always make sure that, you know, the other one just walks off the field and let him handle that 2-on-1, because he's been handling 2-on-1s in the events for us.
Grayson's had a pretty phenomenal past couple of years.
Yeah,
man.
so Grayson's been going
really
off.
good.
He's been consistent. Had to throw him in there. Yours truly, you know, had to throw myself.
Got to bet on yourself, man.
Yeah. Then I'll play better, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have something to fight for, fantasy. And then Keith, because you know, he's going to get down that snake. If they don't put him snake way, I'd be surprised.
It's the Keith Brown snake.
So, yeah, Keith's going to do work. That's my boy as well. So, that's my fantasy team.
Nice. So, final thoughts on your schedule. You have Red Legion, Ironman, Heat, Art, Chaos. You guys feel strong? Everyone's confident heading into this event?
Yeah, you know, honestly, like we said, anybody can beat anybody. So, it doesn't matter who we drew or who we draw, but it's going to be, you know, how we play. That's all that matters. So I'm confident on it. I like it, and it's gonna be a good one. I'm excited for Cup.
Well, hey, I wish you the best of luck. I always love watching you and X Factor play. Incredibly exciting team to watch play. So many come from behind victories this year, including and then also last year with that World Cup victory. If you get a chance to check out those games, check out our YouTube channel. And thank you guys for tuning in. Again, all the support that you guys give us just helps us try to make a better show for this sport that we all love so much. Definitely a special shout out to all of our sponsors, and as well as PbNation and you guys. You know, this is all about the fans. This is all about trying to progress the game. So yeah, man, thank you guys for tuning in. World Cup is going down, and make sure to tell your friends. They got a couple more hours here. They got one more day to save a little bit of money on the webcast. And yeah, October 10th through the 12th, PSP World Cup, most important event of the year, is going down. So spread the word for us. Help us preach that paintball gospel, like I always say. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Matty Marshall with Tom Martinez, Scott Kemp, and Yosh Rao. We'll see you guys at World Cup.